Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to do what I said I'd do in my last video and give you guys a card reading. But before that, I would just like to talk to you guys about some things. You know, what's going on right now, my perspective on things. Maybe it will be useful to you during these times. And my energy is very low today. So I might talk a little bit slower than I normally do, or just take a longer time to get around to what I need to say. So I apologize for that, but I really want to get this video out to you today. I had anticipated on doing it last weekend, didn't get the chance to. Again, I'm just very tired in every way, and if you are too right now, just slow down, don't push yourself. There's a lot of intense stuff going on right now. We're being tested on every level. So give yourself a break. I'm going to start off with that message. Just give yourself a break. If you find yourself having a really hard time right now, you find that you can't really push yourself, just don't. That's what I'm doing today. And so I'm allowing myself to take my sweet time to make this video. I usually try to keep it under 20 minutes, but I'm like, you know what, it's just going to unfold how the video needs to unfold, and I'm going to trust that process and everything is going to be fine. I guess I'll begin with providing some kind of contextual background to my understanding of what's going on right now to the best of my ability, or really just like my understanding of what could be going on right now, because it is a mystery and it is confusing and there's so much going on. But anyway, let's talk about one of my favorite books, one of the books that I found when I started to really get into my work, my spiritual work. Not so much with numerology necessarily, more on myself and my understanding of the world and my place in it. And that was back in 2014. I was about 20, and I discovered Dolores Canon's book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. It's a wordy title, so it goes something like that. Some of you might not know who Dolores Canon is. So basically, in a nutshell, she's an investigative hypnotherapist whose books mostly consist of her transcriptions with people. And she was a pioneer in her field because even though she went into hypnotherapy to help people with quitting smoking and addiction, obesity, trauma, etc., her and many people were finding some really weird stuff when they would regress people. People would start talking in other languages. People would start recalling lives that they've never lived before. A lot of people thought this was nonsense or were just scared of it, so they didn't try and understand it. But her whole work became getting people to these places to uncover information. And that's why I really like Dolores Canon, because she basically did not channel anything. It was more of just an investigation. And because her books mostly consist of the transcriptions, I like that I can just read those and decide for myself. Anyway, so this book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth, talked about a lot and revealed a lot. But one of the main things that she uncovered in this book, in these specific transcriptions, was that this time in history that we're living in right now is monumental. And it's monumental in a way that our human minds can't really fathom. She said it's like everyone is watching because this has never been done before. Everyone is watching because they have no idea what's going to happen. And basically, this book was talking about these times where it was kind of like this weird in-between phase where we have an old Earth and a new Earth, and there's this split almost, and there will be an old Earth, so to speak, left over, and a new one where people can carry on with the lessons that they learned here. She said a lot of stuff, and I took everything with a grain of salt, but as the years have gone by, it seems more and more like that. We see it in the polarization of everyone. And this is where I want to talk about Ascension. You know, her book, and you know this already if you read her work, made a lot of people feel like Ascension was a very literal thing. Like one day, literally, they're going to wake up and be a completely different thing in a completely different life. Like it would just happen. And they wouldn't know that it happened. It just happened. Some weird stuff like that. I disagree. My feeling is that with your soul contracts and all your contracts, and you decide to be a human when you come here, and you decide to die as a human when you come here, with its own set of rules, with its own set of circumstances. However, I do think that the kind of ascension that she was uncovering in her work was that eventually your soul evolves to a point where the next incarnation that you have is that of, I guess, a lighter existence. It's like, finally, we can put down these stories that we have been acting out here on Earth over and over and over again and move on to the next step, whatever that looks like. But it's nothing like here. And that was called the New Earth. And what I'm feeling now is that it's now or never. And I don't mean to say this to make people scared, but rather to help people maybe kind of look at everything from a different perspective. Maybe help explain why everything feels and looks so insane right now. Really? And then through doing that, hoping that people feel at least a little bit comforted in knowing and like validated, like, yes, that feeling that I'm having right now, it's because something really big is happening, and it requires my involvement, and it does. I think that this polarization that we're seeing is where half the population is just continuously choosing their narrative despite hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes of doing this. And then the other half, us, finally ready. We're finally ready to move on. And there's so much about this that makes it difficult because, one, we're angry. We're tired. We're tired of having to do this. We're ready for the next step. Two, these people who are continuously choosing their stories, their false stories, their illusions, they are suffering in their own way. And even though we're mostly angry and sad and upset in these human bodies of ours, in these states of ours, I think on a deep soul level, we're extremely, extremely saddened that these people are going to be left behind. We know some of these people personally. We're going to miss them. If you've done the hard work, like if you've just been constantly working, I think eventually you come to a point where you see it's not us versus them, it's us versus us. And so, almost like a cancer in the body, we know that we have to disengage from that cancer to go on. But that cancer is us. It's not like some separate thing from us because separation is an illusion. It is like having to leave behind a body part to go on to something else. This is very sad. We have to, it's almost traumatic, and like right now, to have to leave us behind, to leave a part of us behind, of the whole, the one, all is one, to move on to our next steps. And I don't know how long this is going to take. Time is a weird thing, so I try not to limit myself through the lens of that. Even these videos, I try to not timestamp them, even though a lot of readers like to do that. And that's fine, because you gotta relay the message somehow, right? I also think that a lot of us stayed longer than perhaps we could have, just because we wanted to help volunteer souls, you know? That's the term I identify with more than starseed, more than all the crazy indigo crystal child stuff. Volunteer soul really resonates with me. And, you know, Dolores Canon talked about a lot of stuff, how a lot of people incarnated here are not from here, etc. But I think a lot of us too have just stayed past our point of incubation, if that makes any sense. We've had like wings for a long time, and we just kept staying here to hope that we could help the remaining people try to choose something different. They don't seem to be choosing anything different, a lot of them. Maybe some of them have. Maybe we did something and we can't see it yet. Maybe we planted a seed for them that will germinate later in their soul's existence. Who knows? But this is really hard. And another thing that Dolores Canon said was that things were going to get nuts. She said, this is when things are going to get crazy. And that a lot of us also came here to be one of the few who are not running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So, it's really hard, but we have to also try the best that we can to not become a part of the hysteria. It doesn't mean that you should be silent, especially now. When hate is loud, when hatred is loud, love cannot be silent. It must stand up for us. What I'm saying instead is to not get caught up, to not get snagged into one of these things, and then inadvertently, get stuck, inadvertently devolve a little bit over a long period of time, whatever. We came here to be able to handle the craziness, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm asking you guys to handle the craziness in this way. And the universe doesn't give you anything it can't handle. And I wrote here, this is what we've been training for. This is what it came down to. We are ready, okay? We're ready to accept a whole different way. And we're ready to see things for what they are. And finally, choose unity, okay? So, that is what I would like to say about Dolores Canon and Ascension. I also want to recommend working with a particular goddess that I have invited into my space as of recently, and that is Kali Ma. Kali is a Hindu goddess, and she is that of a lot of things, some of which creation, protection, and most importantly, the destroyer. And that's why she's often depicted in a very scary way, but she's anything but evil. She protects the balance. She's often called into war, and has been used as, or looked at rather, as the destroyer of illusions. So can you see why this would be very appropriate right now? If this doesn't resonate with you, that's cool. I just wanted to share something that has helped me a lot. I printed out a picture of Kali, put it in my bedroom. Rather than being consumed by my own anger and letting that toxicity overwhelm me, I instead call Kali to burn away everything that is not needed in my life anymore, and to burn away everything in this world that is not needed anymore, that does a disservice to us all. So I hope from what I just said, you can kind of see how Kali is a very appropriate goddess to call upon right now. Go ahead and feel free to Google her. There's tons of really interesting stuff out there on her. And I don't talk a lot about different kinds of goddesses on my channel often, but I do remember talking about Kuan Yin once, actually, in a Christmas video. So, you know, I don't do this often, but when I do, it's very necessary, and it's something that I really need right now, and that perhaps you need. So that's why I took the time to share that with you today. And again, I don't want to invoke any fear in any of you, because fear is permission, as I like to say. It's not, it has no utility, and it's in itself kind of like an illusion, you know. Fear is good because it helps us survive, but we don't need to do that anymore. So now it's hurting us. So don't live in fear. Don't be afraid about what's to come. But I have had a very bad feeling about the world since January. And it started with this night terror that I had in January. And I have not had a night terror since I was a child. And for those of you who've never had a night terror before, it's not like a nightmare. There is no plot. It's nonsensical, but it's real. It feels very real. And it's like an experience that you have in your sleep that is so horrific. You often wake up sick. I, with this particular night terror, woke up and I was hyperventilating. That's one of the ways that I don't know, I don't know, have a symptom of stress. Like my breathing gets out of control. But like this is like severe trauma type of thing that I do. So I'm telling you right now, this night terror was very real. And I don't know what caused it, but after that night terror, where I saw awful, awful things, I woke up and I could not shake off the feeling that pure darkness, pure, I guess what you would call evil, was here. And it just inhabited every single human being on the planet and every single space on Earth. And the world didn't feel the same to me after that day in January. I tried to do the same thing when I was a kid, where like when I would go through this as a child, it would be like as soon as the sun came up, I felt a sense of relief. I would just wait for the light to come back, and I would feel a sense of normalcy and get back into stuff. And I guess I did then, but I just didn't feel right. The world felt different to me, and it was completely random. Like, I had not been watching any horror films. I hate horror films, so I don't watch them. You know, like, there was no trick in my brain. I didn't eat before I went to bed. Like, it was just so random too. Like, sometimes I eat before bed, or like I know like I had a stressful day and then I have a nightmare and I'm like, oh, that's why that happened. But this wasn't like this. And Perhaps I had this night terror because when the collective goes through what it's going through right now, as it turns out, the first thing was the pandemic. Now we're fighting for life itself through Black Lives Matter, through all of this. When we go through stuff like this, it almost can feel like a purge. Like we're just like throwing up something. Like, when you're sick with a stomach virus and you just have to keep throwing up and throwing up and throwing up until you eventually feel better. But like when it surfaces, it's like such a level of hysteria that you can't ignore it, so you gotta like really look at the demons in this place. So that's my hypothesis as to why I had that night terror. And I had some other dreams back in 2019 too that were oddly relevant to this year. I won't talk about them in this video because it's going to be too long. But yeah, I know that other people right now are going through similar things, and normally I wouldn't talk about my own personal experience with this, but I think it's good to talk about it just in case you guys are also going through some really strange stuff right now in a weird way, like not just looking at the world, but somehow that's in you now, like that's normal. Somehow the that dark stuff that you always saw outside of yourself that you're like, what is that, is suddenly in you, and you're like, why is this in my house? That feeling of heaviness that you get sometimes, like if you were to walk into an old house or something like that, now that's in your house or in your body or in your mind or in your heart. That's normal right now. So that's the main reason why I'm taking the time to really lay this out for you guys so that you can feel a little bit validated if that's the case. And most importantly, not alone in your experiences. And I'm sorry that I haven't spoken much to you guys this month, but I'm going through my own stuff too. So before I go ramble on some more, let's finally get on to the cards. Today I have the Spacious Tarot deck and the Untamed Truth Oracle deck, two of my all-time favorite decks. So I'm going to shuffle these and edit that out to save time in this video. That's going to be very long. And I'll get back to you when we get the results. So a lot of cards came out. Multiple cards in like 3 separate instances. The first one, or ones, are this combo of the Six of Wands and the Explorer of Pentacles. This is a very intriguing combination to me. First, I want to talk about this imagery. We have white wands leaning up against these 3 other dark wands. We have this polarity here, leaning up against one another. On the tip is a wreath hanging from them. It certainly feels like this right now. It's kind of like they're at a standstill a little bit, but very much facing one another now and leaning up against one another. Forces interacting with one another in such a way. But I think that the Six of Wands has a kind of message of pride, of when I think Wands is always a fiery, take action kind of suit. It's always going to be doing. Okay, like what are we doing right now? What should we be doing right now? You know, etc. So, you know, in numerology, 6 is always in regards to our relationships with our family, especially. This is our human family here. I think it's about taking initiative with our human family, honestly. This is how I'm interpreting this card. But I will definitely read from the guidebook. And here we have the Explorer of Pentacles. Grounded, we have Pentacles here. We have... I love this little bear family in the deck. Sorry for sidetracking. But we're kind of trying to find our way throughout that. And I think we're being asked of something here. So I'm going to read this guidebook real quick with the 6 of Wands, starting with that. It says here, pride and acclaim. The 6 of Wands buoys you to take pride in who you are. Instead of trying to shirk away, show up fully. Assert yourself, assert what you want, and keep your head held high. The laurel wreath symbolizes victory, reminding you to believe in your ability to succeed. It's almost overwhelming when we look at the news right now. It feels like nothing is on our side. It feels like everything is getting away from us. But what if it isn't? What if it isn't? What if this is what this looks like? This duel between light and dark. We're not really seeing the wreath here. This victory in this process. It says here, look for those who are cheering you on. Focus more on your supporters than your critics. We're coming up against a lot of people who are filled with hatred now. But what if the light is stronger than we think it is? What if love will win? What if love has already won? It's just something to consider. Maybe we should just focus on that for a little bit. Even when you can't see it, there are forces out there that want you to win. Remember, the approval you need most is self-approval. How can you be your own greatest champion? I think that this is also kind of saying, we see you and we're cheering you on. So how comforting is that? Very cool. Let's go to the Explorer of Pentacles now. Dedication and thoroughness. Okay. When you approach goals with a thoroughness bordering on stubbornness, you're activating your inner Explorer of Pentacles. Like the forward-facing bear here, go in the direction that beckons to you, even if it seems like you're slogging through mud. Move at your own pace, like I said in the beginning of this video. If you need to walk forward slowly, do so. Don't force yourself. But don't let perfectionism result in procrastination. Also very good advice. This is also talking about how we should keep our commitments, especially those that we make to ourselves. So let's not lose ourselves throughout all this either, okay? And basically just learning how to tango with these new installments that we have in the world right now. Okay, so the next group of cards that came up was the Ace of Wands. I think this is us feeling all that we need to take action. We have this fiery energy of basically initiative. I think this was June. This is just June. This was June 2020 here. And 1 was the global month number of June, by the way. If you were supporting me on Patreon for the month of June, you know this, because this is where I talk about that. So if you want card readings like this and me to talk about numerology every month, please sign up for that service. But here together we also have the 6 of Cups and the 10 of Cups. And I think that this came out I'm not certain, but I think that this came out in my last video called Stay Calm, where I did a reading when all this COVID stuff happened, and I just wanted to like send some feelers out there and get a message to you guys. So this is still here. This didn't go away. That message is still here. And now we have this depiction of the Six of Cups, and it's on the beach, and it feels very homey. It feels like a communal experience. We're being reminded that we need, I think, like we've already said here, to get in touch with our supporters. There's something about that will help us get here. It's this aspect of the cups, which is about really like emotional fulfillment and many other things, creativity, of course. But in this case, I think we need to remember to kind of like, with all these cups going on, invite that into our space, figure out who we can reach out to who are in our communities. The number 6 is also very much heavily involved in community, where we can experience perhaps a little bit of respite while doing this work that we are doing and embarking on this month and this year. But I'm also curious to read about the Six of Cups, so I will read that to you right now. So this is kindness and nostalgia. The Six of Cups offers you a sweet and simple kindness. The large cup holds a bouquet of flowers and has offered them generously to other cups. Look for the good in yourself and in others. What acts of kindness can you engage in right now to encourage personal and collective healing? The other day, I saw a white man in his car give the peace sign to a black man walking in the street. This is the kind of stuff that we need. You may feel pulled to reflect on the past. Find the sacred in the experiences that led you here. You don't need to don rose-colored glasses, but can you find ways to look back on the past with fondness? Send tender, loving care to both your past self and your present self. That is kind of like a unique way of healing, of self-healing, that I've read about in certain books. I think even in Dolores Canon work. This is weird that this is coming back to me, but I remember a very specific transcript I was reading where the person was explaining how you can actually help heal yourself by sending love to your past self, because we are on like this weird linear timeline. And then if you dive into quantum physics and you dive into these alternate dimensions and you dive into the strangeness of reality, the elasticity of it, the everything about it, you discover that it's like there is a place where everything just is, and you're going through this all at the same time. There's no like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and that's it. Like, there's so many other levels of existence, and it's hard for our human brains to even fathom it, that our past selves, our future selves are intricably are just inseparable. Like, it's just one thing. So that's an interesting piece of advice for right now. And I really liked that. I'm really glad we got that card. Now, last but not least, and here is the ultimate, I think, message here. We have the Wheel of Fortune. We're going through a cycle. Next month might be completely different. In 6 months, we might be looking at something completely different. No matter how good or bad it gets on this wheel, guess what? It's always moving. The Wheel of Fortune. And strength. We're asked here to remain strong throughout all this. Buckle up is my advice. And like I said, the universe doesn't give anything you can't handle. You would be really surprised to know what you can do. So the cactus especially here, the depiction of it, there is this message of endurance. You know, cactus, it gets just blasted with light 24/7 almost, and it's just hot as fuck. And it has managed to make a life in that, you know, and to be this beautiful creation, and we still have the flower here that opened up in the midst of this backdrop of dust, hot, dry air in this wheel of fortune where it feels exhausting. We're just like going around and around and around on a crazy ride. We have this. And last but not least, from the Oracle deck, we got patience. So I think that we need to kind of dig down deep, and we want change now. But I think that people keep saying like, oh, this year, man, it's the year. Like as if 2021 is going to come and it's just going to be a completely different thing. No. This is a decade-long thing. This is a lifelong process. It doesn't just start and stop and that's it. It's a slow progression. We're being asked to be patient throughout all this. We're being asked to have the strength to conserve our energy so that we can endure what is to come throughout this crazy ride. And don't be afraid, because guess what's on the other end of this eventually is the 10 of Cups here. Okay? Look at all that. That's all of us, and that's all of our stuff, our cup contents, and it's just blurring all together at the end into this beautiful iridescent glow. And I find the imagery of the cougar very interesting because I've been seeing cougars a lot recently, like in online and pictures and stuff, so I don't know what that's all about. Maybe that animal is a relevant animal right now for some reason. Maybe look into that for anyone who's watching right now. But yeah, okay. So, yeah, I think I'm done. This took me a while to make this video. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. And like I said before, if you want to have monthly readings like this, because I don't always do this on my channel, please sign up for my Patreon service. All the links that you could ever need through me, whether that be a numerology reading or to just follow me somewhere else, they're in the description. Oh, and thank you so much for your time. I would just love to hear whatever you guys have to say. If you're going through any hard times right now, feel free to express yourself in the comments. And, yeah, just stay strong. You can do it. Whatever you have going on right now, it's going to be okay. And be kind. This was a very nice, unexpected message that I think we got today. The very, very strong utility of kindness. So, I'll see you all soon. And until next time, guys, take care.